Shalom, beloved family. It's your girl Sophia Spiritual Light, and we're here for less a mess, less midge, messing. It's a message combined with a lesson, and I wanted to get this out here. You know how I do into the ley lines, and it's going to be literally a combination of a couple things, but um. I think the first thing I want to do before we talk about this particular holiday is we need to give some flowers to Big Levi because knowingly or unknowingly, he was tapped into the ley line. And so, what it is on, I'll give y'all the short version first, or from what I can understand from what I got from the spirit. When you all did your ivory soap bath, and then followed that up with the 40-day fast on the days that you did it, you actually covered two really important, I would say, spiritual holidays. The first one is um, whatever portal opens on the actual um, New Year's, which, from what I can tell, I haven't seen an actual description of this yet, but this seems to be the period from Christmas to New Year's when you are actually able to get forgiveness for your sins if you confess them. This is like the time for the confession of sins at this time. And then when Groundhog Day comes, which is February 2nd, that is the day when the sacrifice or the Thanksgiving or the feast day is held, um, with the priest, as he would have given you forgiveness for your sin, because you have to wait about 40 days. And between Christmas and New Year's, and especially between New Year's and Imbolc uh, or Groundhog Day or Candlemas, it's actually 33 days, which would have signified, of course, the life of Christ, the end of the ministry of Christ. And then the fact that you do the 40-day fast that goes right into um, Easter, or the resurrection, the celebration of the resurrection of the Christ. You cover all the slots. So I don't know how much of this Big Levi actually knew. I didn't tell him I was making this video, but I thought it was very important to give him credit because you guys really, I was not in the walk at that time. So you all who did that bath, you really started this ball rolling. I would call it like opening of a spiritual seal on the positive side, because in Revelation we have all the negative seals, but we have, if there's negative seals, then there obviously must be positive seals. So I don't know if it was the opening of the first seal. I don't know exactly what that was, but you all definitely did something that really propelled this fire in the direction of, leading us back to the Most High in His complete mother father form. And so I have to first and foremost give Big Levi some credit for that. I'm sure he does not want credit. However, I would be remiss if I did not say that I was able to make these connections based on what you all did on New Year's of last year. So, congratulations to all who heard the call and answered it. It was quite a big feat and quite a big test. And we have again captured another feat in another test, which we will get through too on this lesson. So, this is the title of this lesson, of course, is Feasting for the Forgiveness of Sins on in Bulk. And we're just going to go straight to the websites here, and we're going to talk about these holidays. And again, I'm not just saying this because I celebrate holidays. I don't want anyone to think that I'm like trying to force anybody to celebrate any holidays or anything like that. That is not my goal. What I'm trying to do is trying to illuminate various individuals who are seekers, who are trying to figure out the most appropriate way to live this life, to serve the Most High God in spirit, mother, and truth, father. Okay, so any other misconstrue of this is not understanding what I'm doing. I happen to be very tied into holidays due to the nature of my life. And so I'm not saying anybody has to celebrate any holidays. Don't do anything that you feel uncomfortable with. However, I would be remiss not to see all the connections. And maybe other people can't see them. That's fine. This is not for you. This is for the same people that the Shem that Elder Almond shared with us, this thing that came back from 84 years in the future. This is for those people. Okay, so if this is not for you now, this is for those people 84 years into the future. Okay, that's who this is for, and I just happen to be sharing it with you to preserve it on the internet ley line so that they can't pretend like this information didn't exist, like they indeed like to. All right. So this is Candlemas. Candlemas is Groundhog Day. So they picked that day, and we're going to see that very, very specifically in a few minutes as we go through this lesson. They specifically picked that day due to the nature of the spiritual activity that was happening on that day. They threw a animal in there when before it was just candles, and they changed everything, and they told you it was Groundhog Day. Then they made a movie, and they told you what it was in the movie. You know, a sister brought this information to my attention. Again, this is not my information. I have a team, and a sister brought this information to my attention, and I told her I would look into it. And here we are. We have the manifestation of that movie being in someone's brain, bringing it to my attention. Hey, what's up with Groundhog Day? What is that day? And I said, I don't know. Maybe it's the day where you get forgiveness of sins. You have the opportunity to relive your sins and get forgiveness for that. That's literally what I said. I just surmised that. And as it turns out, that's basically what it is. So we're going to read some of this stuff, and I'm going to give y'all an understanding, the understanding I was given from the Spirit about this particular holiday. Again, let me say it again, just for the people who think that I don't know what you think about me, but all I can say is this is not my information. A sister brought this to my attention, this particular holiday, Groundhog Day, and I was like, well, let me look into it, although I surmised it had to do something, it was spiritual and had to do something with forgiveness. And I looked into it, and this is what I found. Okay. And it just so happens that the fast that you guys did and the bath that you all did correlate directly with both the forgiveness part, the sin part, and the forgiveness part. I can't make that up. I'm new to this walk. I didn't tell y'all nothing. I didn't have this information. I'm just getting this information now. So all I'm doing is doing what is required at this time. And before I even go to that, let me just say this. I should have delivered the message I was given to deliver the other day, but I did not because I did not want anybody to take it as a personal attack. However, it has now become clear that the message is this: the end of the strong black female is here. There will be no more of that. There will be no more of that. And why do I say that? When Pele died, a male with the name of a female goddess, that was the embodiment of a strong black woman, a male with the name of a female goddess, a female who thinks she's as strong as a male, the best, better than any other men at that, because Pele was allegedly the best. He was the spokesperson and all of that. And when he died, I mentioned it, but I didn't want to get the whole message that I got. So I'm going to give you the rest of it because now we have had the death of Gangsta Boo, which I mentioned in my video the other day. And that I still didn't want to give the message because I was like, I don't want anybody to think that I'm attacking them. However, the message is this: the whole strong black female is done. It is. It just is. I mean, you have the death of Gangsta Boo. Like, that's the epitome, not her herself, because we've done interviews with her. She's not that. But the name itself, the way, the timing, all of that is the death of the gangster female. The male the female the male incarnating through a female. We're That's over with. Now is a time for femininity. And I say also that because New Year's Eve, I did my own feast day. I went out and I bought like 3 dozen flowers, 2 dozen roses, and a dozen of some other, like a mixed bouquet of flowers. Had no idea why I was buying that, and it was just kind of like dropped into my spirit that it's like a reinvigoration of the divine femininity. And it's a reminder of our it's particularly me, femininity. I am not particularly a feminine type of female. I'm a very aggressive female, especially due to my being a millennial. Millennials are very aggressive. We have lived through, the good times of the 80s and growing up in this, sort of pure innocence, all the way through the catastrophe of 9/11 and having all of our friends, that we went to high school with go to war, and many, many, many of them coming back. Uh, if they come back in body bags, and if they don't come back in body bags, severely mentally destroyed. And so millennials are quite angry. And so I have to very frequently try to tone that down. Plus, I worked in the entertainment industry for like 7 or 8 years. Then I followed that up with working in the restaurant industry, none of which value femininity as a positive trait. And so I have an extremely difficult time getting into feminine nature just by who I am, by virtue of what I've done in my life. I've always been a very aggressive female. And so I knew this message was for me specifically. And I also knew that some people might hear it and take it to be personal. So so you understand, it's not a personal message directed at anybody. I am just telling you. This is what the spirit is saying. It's the death of the gangster female. It's the death of the male female. It's divine female, divine man. Because if you notice with Gangsta Boo, the men of 3-6 didn't die. It was only the woman. And so the masculine male, this is the time for the masculine male, the divine male. That is remaining. And the aggressive what? Yeah, thank you. Okay. Sorry, hold on, y'all. I'm baking. Clearly I'm baking, of course. I mean real baking, not that other stuff. You dig? Hold on. Just to be clear at what's going on here. Oh man. I was supposed to come back. I was supposed to wait to start this video until after I did this and I forgot. Oh man. Alright, well, hold on. Sorry guys. Oh shoot. See, as you can hear my timer. My apologies everyone. I wasn't really expecting this to happen. But here we are. Right as I'm getting into the aggressive part. See? The Most High knows what he's doing with me. Alright. Sorry for that distraction. Um, very odd distraction. So, this message is not just for anybody else. This message is for me. That aggression that I hold inside myself, that aggression that I bring out and I wield as a weapon towards whomever, when I get into this whole thing, it has to die. But that doesn't mean I don't still have clear boundaries. That doesn't mean that I don't still um um boundaries is important. That doesn't mean I don't let everyone walk all over me or anything like that. It's just being aggressive for the sake of being aggressive or being aggressive for the sake of getting my point across is unnecessary. We can go about this in a much more feminine way, a less aggressive way, and get the answers. If you guys have noticed, we have done a lot of writing, burning, and releasing of various contracts, accepted for value of various contracts. There's a reason for that. What we are trying to prevent, this team that was brought unto me. to do whatever it is we're doing. I don't even know what you would call it. The light warriors, the whole point is to prevent unnecessary deaths and unnecessary pain and suffering. And in order to have a mind to prevent unnecessary deaths and unnecessary pain and suffering, you have to have a heart for the people. It means you can't approach everything with aggression. You have to look for the solution because aggression, while it's not necessarily a low vibrational thing, it opens you up to these other, entities which are, already bound to you, which you're supposed to be getting rid of, but a lot of people don't understand that they have all of these binding contracts out there. I mean, I want you guys to go and read the documents that I've actually linked to. Read them. Don't just listen. Go and read it for yourself. None of them are very long, particularly the one that I did yesterday, which I won't mention. You want to go and read these things, and you tell me if that's something that you want to be bound to. And so here's a call. I'm glad I did this first. Here's a call to the brothers. If you all know of any other documents like this, contracts that seem like, wait a minute, this is binding a group of people to only have engage in one activity forever. Forever is a really, really indicative word. If you read a document and it's like, unless it's we're gonna have peace forever, that's different, to we're gonna live in harmony, we're gonna live. If it's forever in regards to we're gonna hate these people forever, we're always gonna kill, we're always gonna be fighting forever, that is probably a satanic contract, like, and no offense to anybody, of course, but I have to be honest about this stuff. I'm reading these documents and looking at them from the perspective that they're all contracts that you're bound to because you have not no, not just you, but nobody has ever rejected these documents as documents that you don't want to be bound to, and that's what we're doing right now. That's our primary focus is evaluating contracts and determining whether we want to be bound to them or not bound to them. And so that is what is going on with that. But I did want to get those two things out. So let's go on and talk about Candlemas, okay? So, of course, it's been on the screen for a few minutes, so you may have already had a chance to read this. But Candlemas is celebrated on February 2nd and marks the return of light, a symbol of protection and prosperity. This Christian Dodge the Hijack festival commemorates the presentation of Jesus at the Temple of Jerusalem, referring to him as the light of the people of Israel. We're going to talk about that. That's not exactly what happened. On this day, Christians take their candles to be blessed in church, while for those with a sweet tooth, this day is also a chance to eat pancakes. Elsewhere in the world, people eat corn based dishes or watch out for the groundhog emerging from hibernation. From sacrificing goats to blessing candles, the word Candlemas derives from candela, which means candle. Hence, Candlemas is also known as the Festival of Light. Now, remember, we had another Festival of Light, which was surrounding Saint Lucia. So here we go. We have another Festival of Light, another female associated holiday. So again, I was asking what are the mother's holidays? What are the mother's feast days? Here's yet another one with the same sort of language on you'll see in a minute. So it is celebrated on February 2nd to honor light warding off evil and death assuring prosperity. Warding off evil and death and assuring prosperity. This Christian festival commemorates the presentation of Jesus at the Temple of Jerusalem and his role as a light to enlighten the pagan nation. So dodge the hijack on all of that. The first written records of this celebration date back to the 5th century. They narrate the journey of Mary and Joseph. They narrate the journey. Listen to this. Mary and Joseph made to the temple with the infant Jesus. That's not what that is. That's not what that is. Maybe it was with the infant Jesus on the second year, but that's not what it was in the first year, okay? They skip a whole year. Anyway, I won't get into it. The Christian church created this celebration to replace pagan cults that placed light at the heart of their rituals. The Romans, in fact, held torchlit processions in February to purify the earth at the end of winter. Whoa, whoa. They held torchlit processions in February to purify the earth at the end of winter. Keep that in mind. It was also the month of Lupercalia, a festival of purification held in Rome on 15 February to receive fertility by releasing vital sources. Notice 15 February is the day after St. Valentine's Day. Okay? As a part of this festival, young men sacrificed goats, then ran through the streets dressed in animal skin, striking women's palms with goat skin whips. These lashes were meant to guarantee easy childbirth for pregnant women and fertility for those without children. However, over time, the Lupercalia became conducive to scandalous excess, and the Christian community looked upon these practices with a disapproving eye. In the year 494, Pope Gelasius at first decided to ban this festival, replacing it with Candlemas processions and the blessing of candles in churches. From eating pancakes to watching groundhogs. As to the origin of pancakes, Pope Gelasius I is said to have given wafers or flatbread to the pilgrims arriving in Rome. However, there are also stories and superstitions. Round golden pancakes served in February are evocative of the sun and may have been a symbol of fertility and prosperity. In order to obtain an abundant harvest, a farmer would traditionally flip the first pancake with his right hand while holding a gold coin in his left hand. The gold coin would then be wrapped inside the pancake and kept at the top of the wardrobe until the following year, to then be given to the first poor person encountered. Other parts of the world observe different culinary and cultural traditions. El Dia de la Candelaria is a public holiday in Mexico when processions of where processions and dance groups invade the streets. Families get together and eat tamales, a Mesoamerican dish first eaten more than 5,000 years ago. The dough is the dough for these parcels is generally made from maize and flour steamed in a leaf of a cob of corn or in a banana leaf. The filling may be savory or sweet. Mexicans serve tamales with hot chocolate or tole, a sweet hot drink made from maize flour diluted with water or sometimes milk, often flavored with orange blossom, cinnamon, vanilla, or cocoa. According to tradition, whoever finds a figurine during the Epiphany celebrations is responsible for preparing the tamales. In Luxembourg, Candlemas is called, I can't say that word. Children carry lanterns as they go from house to house to wish the inhabitants health and happiness. They sing them traditional songs and receive sweets in return. Oh, you mean kind of like caroling? All right. The United States and Canada celebrate Groundhog Day on February 2nd. On this day, the custom is to try to predict the end of winter by observing the groundhog burrow. If the weather is cloudy and the emerging rodent does not see his shadow, spring will soon arrive. However, if it's sunny and the mammal sees his shadow, it will be frightened and retreat to its den to continue hibernating. It is said it is then said that winter will last another 6 weeks. Okay, let me just talk about that. I never thought about Groundhog Day like this, but this is like how it is when you deal with your shadow. So if you go to deal with your shadow and let's say it's a cloudy day, you're protected by your overself, whatever you if it's cloudy, if you don't see your shadow, you are able to you are able to continue to work with clearing out your shadow. But if you have no protection, you go to do your shadow work and you see your shadow face to face because you have no protection, you've done no other work, and then you try and do some shadow work and you have to come face to face with your shadow, you're going to run back to your camp high and fast as you can to get away from that thing because that thing is scary. So let me give you an example of that before I go on. I used to have dreams when I was younger, and they were quite terrifying. Had no protection, had no spiritual protection. So I asked the Most High, please take these dreams from me. They're rather intense, and I'm a little scared of them. And so they were greatly diminished, along with a great deal of my discernment. But that's I was willing to make that trade off at that time due to the nature of the dreams. Now I started getting dreams again, and I realized that even when scary stuff happens, I'm not scared because I have protection. So now I've come to the conclusion that when I have a bad dream, I can conjure myself up, I guess, for lack of a better term, in the middle of it and tell myself, look, you better give this thing a happy ending. Why are you letting this dream drive you crazy? This is just like the other dream I had where the Most High came in with the platinum card. I popped out of the bar where I was, getting ready to order my drink with the platinum card that the Most High had. I popped out of that to go see what they were doing on the field, and I was like, "Oh no, I don't want nothing to do with that." And I popped right back into the bar, and that is the first time I can recall being able to pop in and out of scenes in my dream. I don't think I've ever done that like before. Um, and I don't think I've ever done that since. I've had quite a few dreams since then, and I've never had a dream where I popped out of a violent scene by saying, I don't want no parts of this. I need to go back to what I was doing. And I just popped out of it. And so recently I had a dream. I wouldn't say I popped out of it. I was able to just give the dream a happy ending by merging it with something else that I was watching or had been watching, and that was more positive. And then I was able to have a positive outcome with my dream, and that's how I came to this conclusion. Okay, so anyway, that's what I must have been thinking about when I said it's got to do something with like the forgiveness of sins, or being able to relive your old bad whatever experiences and come back to whatever it is. So that's how I kind of came to that conclusion. I'm not saying that that is what it is, but that's how I came to my conclusion. All right. So Candlemas sayings. Candlemas honors the end of winter and return of light. So various proverbs link it to the weather, to the cold, or the return of the sun. Here are two examples. If Candlemas Day be fair and bright, winter will have another fight. If Candlemas Day bring cloud and rain, winter won't come again. All right, so those are just references. All right, let's go to, and I'll put these references in the link since I have them all in one place and you guys can take a look for them yourself. So this is the Positani Groundhog Club, established in 1887. Um, Let's see, let's go to the history. The Christian religious holiday of Candlemas Day has become commonly associated with the current celebration, but its roots are older than that. Its celebration started in Christianity as a day, February 2nd, where Christians would take their candles to the church to have them blessed. This they felt would bring blessings to their household for the remaining winter. As time rolled on, the day evolved into another form. The following English folk song highlights the transition to weather and prognostication. If Candlemas be fair, right? Okay, we already heard that. This interpretation of Candlemas Day became the norm for most in Europe. As you can read, there's no mention of an animal or any kind preceding song. It wasn't until this traditional belief was introduced into Germany, where that's where our people were too, that an animal was introduced into the lore. Hence, another evolution of February 2nd. If, according to German lore, the hedgehog saw a shadow on Candlemas Day, there would be a second winter or 6 more weeks of bad weather. As German settlers came to what now is the United States, so too came their traditions and folklore. With the absence of hedgehogs in the United States, a similar hibernating animal was chosen. This leads us to yet another evolution into the legend and the present and to present day Puxatawny. Okay, in Puxatawny, 1886 marked the first time the Groundhog Day appeared in a local newspaper. The following year brought the first official check to Gobbler's Knob. Each year since then has seen a steady increase in the participation of the celebration from people all over the world. And then it talks about the tradition of these people. But if you go to Kirimo's videos, Kirimo how he's got a bunch of videos talking about how these so-called Germans were our people. So don't think this was not about us. All right, it always was. So here's another one. This is what you need to know about the beautiful feast of Candlemas, right? Though not widely celebrated, it preserves a rich tradition of the church. If you count, listen to this. If you count 40 days after the celebration of Christmas, you reach February 2nd. Early on, the church 40 now okay, let me just pause right there. How do you get a holiday that's exactly 40 days? 40, which you know what 40 is. Exactly 40 days after, exactly 40 days after another holiday. How do you get that? Because a lot of people think that these holidays, as I have mentioned, are about whatever they say they are. The Gentiles don't know what they're talking about, okay? These people have no idea what they're talking about. They just make stuff up to cover up the truth. Literally, you just heard that's what they did with Groundhog Day. They took the whole thing, and this is the first one that says this. If you count 40 days after the celebration of Christmas, you reach February 2nd, right? Early on, the church marked that day with a special feast, and it is the final baby Jesus day in the liturgical calendar before the celebration of Lent. Okay, and look at that. It's the final baby Jesus day in the liturgical calendar before the celebration of Lent, and Lent is when you do your fasting. All right? This feast has many different names in the Roman Catholic Church. It's been called the Feast of the Presentation of the Lord, the Feast of the Purification. Whoa, hold up. The Feast of the Purification of the Blessed Virgin Mary? What does that mean? And more familiarly, Candlemas. Each name highlights a different aspect of the feast that the church celebrates. First of all, it's called the Feast of the Purification of the Blessed Virgin Mary on the account ancient Mosaic law explained in Leviticus. If a woman conceives and bears child, she shall be unclean. And when the days of her purifying are completed, whether for a son or for a daughter, she shall bring to the priest at the door of the tent of meeting a lamb a year old for burnt offering. And we already talked about what burnt offering is. That's a party, okay? And a young pigeon or a turtle dove for a sin offering. And he shall offer it before the Lord and make atonement for her. Then she shall be clean. Leviticus 12:6 and 7. So what that is saying is that if you if a woman conceives, not if a wife conceives, okay? So if a woman conceives and bears a child, she shall be unclean. So remember, we have already discussed this. December the 25th is the day of the conception. Okay, immaculate conception. That's because back in those days, people knew when they conceived, right? So that was the day of the immaculate conception. Okay, that was the day of the immaculate conception. If you go and you listen to Brother Man's video, he breaks down that the angel came and told Joseph, go and be with your woman, and the angel came and told Mary, go and be with this man, and she conceived. Okay, the immaculate conception was not so immaculate. However, it was still immaculate in a way, but it wasn't immaculate in the way that the church tried to present it. All right? Let's keep going. Mary, being a faithful Jew, abided by the law and did what was required for her. After 40 days had passed, she approached the priest with the proper offering to be declared clean. Again, these were the rules. You had to, after 40 days after you conceived, which you knew when you conceived because you knew what you was doing, then 40 days later, you went to the priest, you took your offering, and you were forgiven of your sin. That's what this holiday is celebrating, right? The liturgical celebration is also called the Feast of the Presentation of the Lord. Again, corresponds to an ancient Jewish practice of presenting the firstborn to God. Everything that opens the womb of all flesh, whether man or beast, which they offer to the Lord shall be yours. Nevertheless, the firstborn of man you shall redeem. As a result, Mary and Joseph brought with them Jesus, as St. Luke narrates, and when the time came for the purification according to the law of Moses, they brought Jesus to Jerusalem and present him to the Lord. As is written in the law of the Lord, every male that opens a womb shall be called holy unto the Lord. St. Luke narrates how, while at the temple, the Holy Family encountered an old man named Simeon, and what he said next constitutes the basis for why the feast is called Candlemas. Now, Master, you may let your servant go in peace according to your word, for my eyes have seen your salvation, which you have prepared in the sight of all peoples, a light for revelation to the Gentiles, and a glory for your people of Israel. What does that mean? Let's think about that for 1 second. That uh Luke, I guess it's probably chapter 32. A light for revelation to the Gentiles. That's one thing. And the separate thing is, and glory for your people of Israel. That's your second part. So Yahushai, Shua, whoever you call him, was supposed to be a light of revelation, a light for revelation to the Gentiles. And for you children of Israel, daughters of Zion, and glory for your people, Israel. So he was supposed to be our glory, our big brother, our example that we look up to, our if the exemplification of our greatest achievement spiritually as a people. That's what Yahweh Shai is supposed to be. Maybe not that grandiose, but you know what I mean. A little bit of over exaggeration. Simeon declared that Yahweh would be a light, and the church developed the custom of lighting and blessing candles on this day. Historically, the priest would bless all the candles used during the Mass for the entire year. Golly. The congregation would also receive candles, and the words of Simeon were repeated in song. All right, we're not going to read all of this. Okay, we're done. All right, let's go to the next article. All right, so now, here's where we get into the Druidism. So, of course, all of this stuff always goes back to Druid somehow. And here's where you start to get a real understanding of what's going on. Candlemas, February 2nd, and even look how it sounds like Christmas. Anyway, Candlemas, February 2nd, celebrates the presentation of Jesus in the temple and the purification of the Virgin Mary. Two different things. They presented Jesus on the second Candlemas, and on the first one, that's when Mary went to get her um to do they had the party of forgiveness. It was a big celebration. In Roman times, candles were carried through the streets and women observed purification rites. Even today, in many countries, women who had borne children the year before participate in candlelit processions, an activity the church gladly welcomes as it symbolizes the purification of the Virgin Mary. In ancient Celtic cultures, the period between February 1st and 2nd is called Imbolc, the first day of spring, midway through the dark half of the year. It was a time when the stirring of new life manifested itself in the first flow of milk in the udders of pregnant ewes, a sure sign that lambing season was about to begin. The church tried to replace Imbolc with which was dedicated to the goddess of youth and fertility, bride. Whoa! Daughters of Zion. Listen to that one more time. Imbolc, which was dedicated to the goddess of youth and fertility, bride. Who is the bride of Christ exactly? Who is the bride? Y'all, come on. This is a test. You got to know what that means. Who is the bride of Christ? O daughter of Zion. Okay? Thus, in the 5th century, February 1st became St. Brigid's Day and February 2nd became Candlemas. So what does that mean in the 5th century? That's when the Roman Catholic black robes, I call them the evil, the wicked black eye came in and said, man, y'all not gonna be celebrating black women on February 2nd. Absolutely not. What y'all gonna be celebrating is this Mary character and her her the day that she got purified. What? Come on, son. Anyway, let's keep going. There's a popular legend which explains why Candlemas falls immediately after St. Brigid's Day. Mary was very nervous about bringing the infant Jesus to the crowded temple. St. Brigid promised to help her by distracting the crowd. She did this by appearing to the multitude wearing a headdress bearing many lighted candles. Remember, this is the same thing that St. Lucia did. I mean, the whole story of Saint Lucia is that Saint Lucia went into the it what is the place where they were holding the prisoners with a candle, a head lamp full of candles. So here we have a second example of that. Okay, wait a second now. Let's keep going. In gratitude, Mary decreed that a feast day honoring St. Brigid should take place the day before Candlemas. So now they're saying, Mary said, we're going to have a feast day for St. Brigid on the day before Candlemas, and then we have a feast day for the black women on Candlemas. That's what she said. All right. Now, who is married to declare feast days? I mean, this stuff is not rocket science. It's like if you if anybody did a little bit of research, they will come to these conclusions too. Remember, we already identified Mother Mary as Raphael. So you're talking about the angel who is in charge of time. Remember, Raphael had an ephemeris. The ephemeris is the book Raphael carried with him that said everything about time. So when you're looking for the timekeeper to figure out timing, you talk with Raphael or Mother Mary. Mother Mary was one of the persons who held that title. Remember, this is all about the hierarchy and the titles. This is not about the individual. The individual helps us to understand our place in the celestial hierarchy, but it's also bigger than just the individual. But remember, when an angel incarnates, if y'all went back and watched The Preacher's Wife, like I suggested, when an angel incarnates into this reality, they have to incarnate as a male or a female. They don't incarnate as both. They don't incarnate as neither. They incarnate as a male or a female. And so that's how the angels do. Okay, and let's keep going. In Ireland, Candlemas lapsed during the time of the penal laws but was revived afterwards. People donated candles to their local church or took their own to be blessed. These would be then be used on special occasions such as the station masses or when the holy sacraments were administered to the sick. Um I'm not going to read all of this stuff because then it gives you all of the stuff. But let's read the blessing. Here's a blessing written by Andrew Greeley, written expressly for the saints who celebrated their feast days in February. May good Saint Brigid keep you warm till spring and fill your head with poetry and song. May your true heart help a Valentine May your true heart, with the help of Valentine, love you deeply this month and all year long. May Blaze protect you from the common cold and sore throat, hacking cough, and stuffy nose. May Mother Mary's candles light your road, and at the end of the day, bring sweet repose. And may God, who tells the stories of his love through the saints who love us too, bless you. All right, let's go on to the next one. Yeah, I'm getting exhausted. I've been up for a long time. Okay, let's look at this. Now, here's another piece of the puzzle. Most of us know February 2nd is Groundhog Day and think of it as little more than a silly superstition. But did you know that Groundhog Day is a vestige of an ancient holiday which marks the midway point between the winter solstice and the spring equinox? Did you know that? Did you know that it was a midway point specific? Now, if you haven't seen my tarot spiral or the one that was inspired by Lord Oseron, go back to my community post because I knew he has an axis of the Great Lord on here, but I knew there had to be an axis of the Great Mother, and so here we go. Here's one of the points on her axis. So which we'll talk about later once I'm ready to start presenting all that information. For those of us living in the wintry northern hemisphere, making it halfway through winter is cause for celebration. This time of year has been celebrated for centuries in many ways in many places. Candlemas refers to the Christian festival marking 40 days after the birth of Christ. Dodge the hijack. It is a holiday of purification with candles representing the purifying nature of the light both spiritually and physically. It is also the ritual end to the Christmas season and often Christmas greenery are burned on this day and holiday decorations are put away. You ever wondered why you keep your decorations up till February? This is why, because technically you celebrate that that time of year in your home all the way until Groundhog Day. That has been for a long time. All right? But Even before the creation of the Christian liturgical year, in agrarian societies, people were greatly attuned to the turning of seasons and celebrated the summer and winter solstices, the longest and shortest days of the year. The equinoxes, the days halfway between the solstices, which mark the beginning of the spring and fall seasons. They also celebrated cross-quarter days between the equinox and the solstice. Candlemas is such a day. Candlemas is a time of year when the lengthening of daylight hours becomes noticeable. The day is celebrated because it means the winter will soon be over and the spring will come. The time of darkness and fallow earth will soon end, and the new light, life sustaining growth will come. During a time when one's diet, income relied on what could be grown locally, the end of winter was more than a time of cabin fever and depression. It could also be a time of hunger and poverty. When the early church created its liturgical calendars and feast days, they mapped them onto existing Roman pagan holidays. Excuse me? Wait a minute. So, before the church had their thing, they covered up all of the existing Roman holidays with their own thing. Something I have been saying, but people just don't seem to understand. All of the holidays that we have are laid right on top of the holidays that we used to have. So if you in your heart are dead set against celebrating every holiday, you are dead set against yourself and your own quote unquote pagan roots because every holiday is based on you. Something you did, something your ancestors did. So I'm not saying go out and start celebrating them all. Just keep an open mind. When you get the new information, patch that information in. Get back to your roots. Remember who you are. Oh, daughter of Zion, please. Good God Almighty. I've been saying this for months, but I knew people it was just too much for people to handle. Now, here we are again, plain, clear as day. This is what is going on. Okay, let's see. February 2nd was celebrated as the feast day of Juno Februata, the virgin mother of the god of Mars. Of course, Juno is one of the quote unquote dwarf planets. They don't talk about that much, and I didn't know that was the mother of Mars. So that's a whole nother thing. In the Christian liturgical year, this feast day becomes Candlemas and celebrated the purification of the Virgin Mother. And remember, virgin means it's the same thing as somebody said it the other day. That term virgin is the same thing as harlot. Just means a young woman, an unmarried young woman, or really not even married or unmarried, just a young person or young woman. Well, actually, really only women can be virgins from what I understand. So a young woman. Okay, of the Christian God Jesus and the presentation of Christ in the temple. Meanwhile, in Celtic lands, the winter cross quarter day was celebrated as Imbolc, a feast honoring Brigid, who, in Celtic tradition, is a goddess of the dawn, healing, and fertility. Okay, so let's pause on this for a second. How important do you think it would be to have a feast honoring um, dawn, healing, and fertility? And how vital do you think that would be for your uh, the remainder of your year? Or if instead of feasting on those days, you fasted unrespect to those days, as you all did have been doing, how much respect do you think Saint Brigid, Mother Mary, so on and so forth, these angels would have for you? Whether you were doing it knowingly or unknowingly is irrelevant. It's just the fact that it was recognized with something that opens the door to say, okay, let's give them some more information so they know what they're doing. Okay, all right. The feast day in her honor marks the beginning of lambing season, a sign of the earth coming back to life after the fallow time of winter. As Celtic Christianity developed, Imbolc became Candlemas and Brigid became a saint, and the celebrations merged. No, so peep here. Before Brigid wasn't a saint, she was just a goddess, not a saint. Okay. Um, and celebrations merge. It is known as a celebration of hearth and home, of the coming warmth of fertility and purification of new life. People lit candles or bonfires as a sign of warmth of the sun to come. They made brigands' crosses from rushes, and dolls of brigand were carried from house to house to bring her blessings. People also made pilgrimages to holy wells and brought back water to bless the home. Let me talk about these dolls for a second because the pair holiday of this, which is August the 1st, which you all were also doing fasting. I did a feast day that day. Again, unknowingly, I started my fast a day after everybody else's. So I started mine on the night of the first or something like that. I didn't start my fast with everyone else. So again, here we are again, somehow pairing up with these two holidays. The Imbolc, which is the February 2nd, February 1st, 2nd, and then you have the I cannot pronounce the name of this holiday. It's got too many G's and H's, and we haven't come to it yet. But that's on August the 1st. And we were also fasting on this day. So if you think that your prayer and your fasting doesn't matter, it doesn't work, it's not working, you don't understand how this thing works. The cosmic timekeeper, Raphael, aka Mother Mary, is keeping track. And that's why things are being revealed. And imagine what we fasted for on that fast day. That wasn't we weren't fasting for anything except for to take back the kingdom. And that's why we got what we got. That I mean the coincidences, the sheer coincidences on this stuff is not a sheer coincidence. It's synchronicity, and it just shows that we are indeed tapped in and tuned into the universe, the universal time, the cosmic clock. We're tapped in. So if the days seem like they're getting faster, here is because we're tapped into the cosmic clock, which doesn't hold the same time. It holds a different time range. Okay. Um, we're not going to talk about this. All right, let's talk about this real quick. Celebrating Candlemas at home. Whew. I told you I was tired. If you want to extend your celebrations beyond the observation of Groundhog Day and bring more meaning to the holiday, here are some other ways to celebrate Candlemas. Make and light candles. Make your own hand rolled beeswax candles. Okay. Recite the following verse. Um, Candle, candle burning bright, fill us with your holy light. May the flame of joy and love glow now in our hearts. You know how they hate their rhymes that match. Read about St. Brigid and make a cross of St. Brigid. Clean your house, plant seeds, decorate a nature table with the symbols of spring. Read poems and sing songs with children about the spring. So basically, what you're doing is you're making your temple, your space, your home prepared for spring. That's what that is. All right. And we got one more. All right. So, in bulk, Candlemas spells how to improve your artistic skills. Candlemas, the sun festival of the first flame, is coming. If we compare Yule with the embryo, this is a good example. This is why I got this article. Then Candlemas is the newborn child. It symbolizes the beginning of manifestation of the wishes we send to the universe during the winter solstice. What did you do during the winter solstice? That starts to be manifested on this day, right when you start your fast. I mean, we can't make this stuff up. So if you did your shining star bath during the winter solstice, by the time we get to Candlemas, that's when those things start to manifest. You have a 40-day period. I call it the posting period for something in the universe to object to your what you've done. And if there's no objection, you go on with your feast. Okay. But also, one major quality of a baby is fantasy. Listen to this. Fantasy is the source of magical power, creativity, and of course, art. Historically, when humankind obtained fire, started obtaining the ability to imagine, and humans express their imagination in the form of drawing. These drawings we find in caves humans lived in. So even in this material plane, fire generated fantasy, which generated art. Did you ever think of it like that? With no fire, there'd be no art. And so that's why you have in the books of remembrance Dabariel as the leader of the Erkadeshi, even though we know that Anahiel is really the leader. That's why they would identify Dabariel as the leader, because without fire there's no anything. You have to have fire first. Dew is everywhere you look, is the beginning and the end, but without fire, you don't have light. And so that's the whole point of that. And that's how that works. All right, so they want you to increase your artistic skills, blah blah blah. Let's see. I'm not gonna read this whole thing. So it's just some little candle magic, right? The flame of Imbolc is a child. A child doesn't try, doesn't use effort. A child plays, and through the game, it builds its abilities and talents. So keep this in mind and keep playing for the rest of the year. So, really, this whole holiday, and that's all the things I have. This whole holiday of Imbolc is about the manifestation of what you did during your winter solstice. And so, as you can see, this is not a small holiday. This is a very big deal. And we I can tell you for one thing, I'm going to start my fast on the 3rd of February so that I can appropriately celebrate St. Brigid's Day. And in Belk, I'm going to have me some pancakes and see what else I can find that goes along with that. But we'll probably have a great big old breakfast for dinner. My family loves that, and I don't usually do it that much anymore. And we actually used to have breakfast for dinner all the time when I was growing up. And so we'll have some pancakes, and I'll just make it as beautiful and as nice as I can, and thank the Most High, the Father and the Mother, for forgiving me of my sins, as we confess during our winter solstice baths, and allowing us to walk into the spring season with our heads held high, with us forgiven, and everything else. And so this is, again, me personally, have been trying to get on the cosmic timing, and I will point something else out that is, you're probably going to not be that surprised. But on the tarot spiral, the time of Imbelk ceremony is the Empress card. It's 3 cards, 3 women. Oh my goodness. Y'all, I'm just looking at this. It's 3 cards. It's 3 women. It's the Empress, Temperance, and the World. My organization of cards is not the same, which I'll be talking about soon. But it's the Empress card, it's Temperance, and it's the World. Those are the 3 cards during this time of Imbelk. And so, if you are at all interested in tapping into the energy of the mother, you know, these are the type of things you want to celebrate. Now, if you're going to start your fast on the 30th with everybody else, no problem. Just when you break your fast on the 2nd or on the 1st, have you some pancakes. That's all. Just have you some pancakes. That's how you break your fast, and you can honor the goddesses and whatnot. I happen to be there. I'm just going to wait until after that. Um, that's what feels right for me. And I usually time my stuff very, very specific. And so that's just what happened. That's just what happens. And so I would highly recommend, again, go and look in the holiday up for yourself. Like I said, there's another pair to this holiday that's August the 1st. And like I said, I can't pronounce it because it's got too many G's and H's and L's, and they're not in normal places. And so I have to work on that. But we're going to be going into these holidays, and these are, just different things. Again, you can see a clear correlation that the Gentiles hijacked the black robe, the hidden black eye, hijacked the whole holiday, took the black woman out of it, and decided they was gonna make themselves, the one who actually, was the center of this holiday. And even in trying to make themselves the center of this holiday, they still ruined it, because now we're understanding that, you know, we are those people in the Bible look like us. They didn't look like how these Gentiles look. No matter how hard they try, they don't look like them. They look like us. And so you're talking about our days. and I got a candle burning right now. The flame is so tall. The flame, I've never seen the flame so tall on a candle. And so this is a really good sign for everybody that we are heading in the right direction. And as messages come up, of course, I will bring them. And I hope that they're received with love, joy, peace, and happiness. So, to the spirits who are here with me, you're invited to go in peace. To my beloved viewers, you're invited to be at peace. And always remember, the Most High is your peace. Shalom.